let's start by defining terms. Like we, at Netflix, we used to call it inclusion. Inclusion. The people in the inclusion team were an inclusion strategy, and we called it inclusion and diversity. Now we call it DEI. Aside from the alphabet soup, before we start, why don't we begin by defining terms, and we'll start with Singleton.
So you want me to define all of them?
Well, I mean, or however you define when you say,
yes.
Like I'm chief. I'm chief
yes.
officer of DEI.
So,
what does that mean?
Yeah. So if we're just talking about the terms, diversity is just difference. And, that is a very broad term, and it can mean a lot of things. And those things differ depending on where you are in the world and what your lived experience is and how you look at the world. So that's diversity. Equity is really is more about creating the unique opportunities that are needed for people who do not have an inherited advantage in society, so that those people that don't have those advantages can get what they need uniquely in order to be at an equal level to their peer group, so that they can then, and that to me is when you have equality. I tell people all the time, you can't even talk about equality until you solve for equity. That's that extra thing you got to do for everybody to get on an even playing field. And then obviously inclusion is when all different types of people from different types of backgrounds in culture come together in a way that inspires connection, belonging, and shared purpose. So that's kind of how.
That's beautiful.
Okay.
Yeah. I think we should give her Judith, do you want to weigh in or anything different?
I agree with everything Singleton said. I would say that when I think about equity, I think about systems, and that's one of the things that we were talking about earlier. A lot of times when people look at DEI, they just think, what can I as an individual do? And that is absolutely important. But equity really requires a systems approach to creating that sense of equal opportunity. So you look at things like pay audits, promotion audits, making sure that people are actually being promoted fairly, are being paid fairly, that you've created systems that actually work for everyone. And the inclusion piece is also, a matter of systems, but very much about individual contribution and effort. So, and what you said about diversity, absolutely right. It's different, and it's looked at differently in different parts of the world. So, when you lead global DEI, what you see in Japan is not what you see here.
That's right.
And which makes the job incredibly interesting. It's amazing. I have learned so much in this job. So, there you go.
I have very little to add there, but I will speak to the B, which is belonging, because that's an add-on that we've been using lately. And I think this is where language is really important, because with belonging, I think that you look at people in terms of added value and not fit. And oftentimes you will hear, well, that person is not a good fit. And you need more definition in that. And I think when you have a culture that's really embracing belonging, you are looking at added value and making sure that people feel comfortable so that they can do their best work. So I think it aligns with all the other things that we've said here.
Nice. I think what you said was really interesting, Judith, about globally and how we looked at diversity globally, because I did work on a team for a short while where DEI was part of our remit, and one of my colleagues, she's amazing. She went into Italy because production in Italy is all older white men. There were like no women whatsoever. So she started the very first program ever in the country to train women to be directors and producers, and started to make inroads. And I think this is part of the problem. So she started to make inroads, and then we were all laid off, right? And so And so what happens then? You know, you have a big corporation like Netflix who's saying, you know, we really want you to have more women. We really want you, you know, we're hiring you people to make these projects for us, right? And we want you to hire more women, for instance, in Italy as an example. You know, and then, Netflix pulls back, and then Lorraine is not there anymore. And then what happens? And I think this happens a lot in DEI, right? So you kind of like running, and then all of a sudden you're like, you know, you kind of stop. And let's talk a little bit about systems and how do you systemize diversity or inclusion or equity so that you don't keep reinventing the wheel like I fear they're going to have to do in Italy. Maybe they don't, because she started these organizations, and I'm hoping, I haven't caught up, but I'm hoping that they stayed around and, you know, and they made their inroads. But what does anyone think?
But you know, it's interesting to Judith's point about the globalization aspect of it, because I remember, and I won't name names, I had a CEO when I first started in media, and he asked me, do we really need diversity? And this is when it hit me that perspective is everything. Because he didn't grow up in America, and his diversity was, when I look in the room, I see diversity, and he was talking about this conference room. And what he saw was somebody from Italy, somebody from Germany, somebody from England. So in his mind, we have diversity represented. He didn't see the fact that they were all white men. So when you have that approach, you have to realize where people are coming from. And then to the last session around leadership, when you look at leadership development and trying to implement systems, I think you have to look at your business holistically and see where there are opportunities to make sure that you're building a baseline. You know, we can all chase the metrics, but as you fundamentally look at the growth of your business, I think that's the opportunity to layer in systems there that speak to a level of diversity and opportunity.
Yeah.
So true. And I'm also thinking that one of the things that we need to do from a systems perspective is layer inclusive behavior expectations into everybody's job description. Everybody. One of the things that I think has led to the very slow progress that has been made around DEI, and this is just one of the things, is the idea that it's DEI's problem or it's HR's problem, right? And it's a little program or an initiative, and 6 months and we're done. We're not, you know. And so the idea is that it's not a program, it's not an initiative, it is a leadership imperative, it is a strategic imperative, has to be everybody's job every day. And if organizations don't embrace that and inculcate that, then progress is just achingly slow. So I think that, you know, that is certainly a big part of it. And then to the other things I was talking about, like the pay audits and the promotion audits, you'd be amazed sometimes if you take a step back and see how quickly people are being promoted, how much people are being paid at a given level, who gets the best assignments, which then allows them to show what they can do, which then influences how quickly they're promoted. So, you know, all of that goes into creating the systems that we have that sometimes people prefer not to think about. But if you don't think about it, you can't figure out what's wrong and change it.
Mm-hmm.